will travel to Walt Disney World to meet a former police officer who, after realizing the special needs of chronically and terminally ill children, established the Sunshine Foundation. And Joseph Donahue, editor-in-chief of the Monitor, goes one-on-one with Bishop John C. Reiss of the Diocese of Trenton. This week on Catholic Magazine.
With your window on your world, this is Catholic Magazine. Good evening again, everyone. I'm Paul Pirillo.
And I'm Pat Shelton, and we're going to have a really happy program for you today because we're going to Disney World.
Well, that's right, Pat. Tonight, we meet a former Philadelphia police officer who is now in the business of making dreams come true.
And then a little later in the program, we're going to have one-on-one with one of my favorite bishops, Bishop John Reiss of the Diocese of Trenton.
But first, on our program tonight, for the past 17 years, a former Philadelphia police officer has been in the business of making dreams come true for chronically and terminally ill children. The Sunshine Foundation, founded here in Philadelphia back in 1976, is in the business of spreading a little sunshine.
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you.
Anyone who's ever wished upon a star knows the magical power dreams can have if you simply believe in them. And whether they're big or small really doesn't matter, for the only thing necessary to make them real is that they be your heart's true desire. When you think about it, dreams are kind of special. They have the ability to excite, stimulate, guide, and at times overwhelm us. They're the subject of fairy tales, stories, songs, and movies. But perhaps the one thing that's so important about dreams is that they are uniquely ours. And no matter what, no one can ever tell us to stop dreaming. Being able to make someone else's dream come true was Bill Sample's wish, a wish that became a reality when he established the Sunshine Foundation, a nonprofit organization designed to answer the dreams and wishes of chronically and terminally ill children. A former Philadelphia police officer, Sample was inspired to create the foundation while on duty one evening in October of 1976.
Well, I was assigned at that time to a pediatric hospital in Philadelphia and saw the need of a chronic and terminal child where many of them would have dreams and wishes that would never be answered.
Buses pull into Gate 55 at Philadelphia International Airport in the wee hours of a Wednesday morning, filled with children ready and just a little eager to embark on their one-day excursion to the happiest place on earth. Sponsored by Sunshine, these dream lifts, as they are known, allow the organization an opportunity to reach out to special children as a whole, while at the same time giving each one a day they will never forget. A definite chill was in the air that morning of departure, but the little ones didn't seem to notice, for anticipation and excitement were keeping them warm. And although the hour was early and sleep still hung in their eyes, these Mouseketeers knew exactly where they were headed.
Disney World!
Being airborne at 31,000 feet didn't prevent the enthusiasm from building. While some went on a visit to the cockpit where Captain Kurt and crew were boning up on their Disney trivia, others planned their strategy to obtain the maximal amount of fun from their visit.
Me? I'm going to Disney World.
What are you going to see when you're there?
I'm going to see Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and Goofy and Minnie Mouse and everybody else.
I think Under the Sea of the Water and Small World and Haunted House.
Greeted by a bright blue sky and a temperature of 82, this group not only knew they had arrived in Orlando, but also that the fun was about to begin. Now the only thing standing between them and Mickey Mouse was a short bus ride down Interstate 4. Finally, some 3 hours after they began their journey, they stood in the middle of Main Street, looked up at Cinderella Castle, and pondered the question that had been plaguing them since they arrived at the airport that morning. Where do we go first? For these Mouseketeers, the choice was obvious. For what could be a more appropriate place to begin a dream than a land filled with fantasy? Being able to spend a day at Walt Disney World is definitely a dream come true for these special children, who under the circumstances may have wished upon a star, but never seen their dream if it wasn't for a little pixie dust and some very exceptional people.
Yes, we have 23 chapters. They're all volunteer chapters throughout the United States. And if it wasn't for the chapters, Sunshine would not be able to do what we do today. But God has said there's some children out there and that need special help. And I ask volunteers to join with me. And the volunteers are the people that make the Sunshine Foundation is what it is today. With their help, their love, they show the children, and the fact that they're there for the children.
Although other organizations with the same objective as Sunshine have sprung up over the years, the foundation has been and will remain the original dream makers.
Well, a few organizations have sprung up as a result of the Sunshine Foundation in 1976, but as far as I'm concerned and the Sunshine people are concerned, nobody can hold a candle to us. We've handled over 16,400 children so far. We have never said no to a deserving child. Our criteria is 3 to 21, chronic or terminal.
The philosophy of the foundation has always been to never say no to a deserving child. And it is because of this belief that Sunshine has been able to make the dreams and wishes of so many children come true. As a direct result of all those he has assisted, founder Bill Sample has also seen the realization of his dream, the opportunity to help others in his own unique way.
Well, you get out of an inner glow. You get out of the fact that you know you're helping. You know you're doing something. You know you're putting something back. It's just the fact that it means so much to me down deep inside just to be able to help somebody. I've grown up all my life just helping people, and that's how I feel. It's just an extension.
Dealing with children and families in situations such as those that Sunshine faces on a daily basis can be discouraging, but the rewards make it all worthwhile.
Well, the motivation is there with the children themselves. You see the smiles on their faces, the twinkle in their eyes. They just grab your hand, they talk to you, they make little sounds, and that's just, there's no such thing as burnout with the Sunshine Foundation. There's all you can do for the child, and that's what it amounts to.
Fun was definitely the prescription of the day, and regardless if they were in Adventureland, Frontierland, Tomorrowland, or Fantasyland, these children were definitely showing all the signs of a dream in full motion. Happy, smiling faces were everywhere as they lined up for a front row view of the surprise celebration parade hosted by none other than Roger Rabbit, and featuring everyone's favorite characters, Minnie Mouse, Donald Duck, Pluto, Goofy, and even Mickey Mouse himself. Just as Cinderella's dream would cease at the final stroke of midnight, this dream was also destined to come to an end. But as their plane was winging its way back to Philadelphia and reality, these special children were not only reliving the memories of the dream that had just come true, they were already reaching for new ones. For even though they were fast asleep didn't mean their heart had stopped dreaming. And thanks to an exceptional group of people who spread a little sunshine, the dreams that they dream can come true.
The dream that you wish will come true.
Well, Mickey, I'd like to thank you very much on behalf of Catholic Magazine for inviting us into your dressing room and giving the children from the Sunshine Foundation the opportunity to meet you in your dressing room. And of course, there's much more ahead on this edition of Catholic Magazine, so please stay with us.
Coming this fall to Catholic Magazine, School Days.
Want to know how to turn your kid off to school?
Want to really make us not care about learning anything?
Tell me you got to school with no help from your parents, and I'll have to do the same.
When the teacher invites you up for a talk, don't show. Keep on saying girls are no good at math. That'll turn me off.
Face it, when parents don't care, kids don't care. Then they don't learn.
Show me a parent who really cares, and I'll show you a kid who can learn.
Kathy, you must always remember that hitting is not acceptable. You're bigger, you're stronger. Don't hit. Whenever you feel yourself getting angry, you take time out. You know what time out is. You cool off and keep yourself from doing something you're going to be sorry for later. Do you understand?
Well, do you? Take time out. Don't take it out on your child.
One-on-One with Bishop John C. Reiss of Trenton is brought to you by The Monitor, the weekly newspaper serving Catholics in central New Jersey. Interviewing Bishop Reiss is Joseph M. Donahue, editor-in-chief of The Monitor.
Good evening, Bishop Reiss. It's nice of you to sit down with us and to talk with us one-on-one. And what I'd like to talk about tonight is the Cardinal Posadas, who was killed at the end of May down in Guadalajara, Mexico. Some people say it was an accident. He was caught in the crossfire, and some others say that he may have been a target.
Yes.
The bishop really runs quite a risk.
Well, they do. In some places, it's very, very serious, and probably back to the old days when you shoot the bishop or get rid of the bishop some way, then maybe the diocese could fall apart, or the leadership in the church could be affected in a particular way, and that's cause uproar or other problems. And just why a bishop would be scheduled for execution, or even to that way, and we wouldn't be able to understand unless somebody comes forward and gives a reason. But not all the sufferings of a bishop is physical. There's a lot of mental anguish in trying to stand up for the teachings of the church, even in our own country today. Just a week or so ago, there was an article in one of the leading newspapers of New York in which Cardinal O'Connor was speaking very bluntly and wondering whether or not he had been saying too much and putting himself in the limelight and getting a lot of pressure from all sides. But in accord with what the Holy Father himself has said, his position as the Holy Father, and therefore the bishop in the diocese, is supposed to be the teacher. And this is what the church teaches, whether it's dogmatic or moral, and he must expound it despite the troubles that may arise, or even from within the church, those who might oppose some particular teaching. So the sufferings of the bishop is not only the danger of death, but also the stress that is imposed upon him. And myself, I wrote to the Cardinal and told him I thought he was doing the right thing. And it comes back to mind what they used to call some of the saints in the olden days, a confessor. Don't confuse that with the sacrament of penance, but he is one who professes his faith and shows it in his word and then also in his action. I don't want to go back again, but Cardinal O'Connor has been outspoken about certain things, but nevertheless, he himself, when he has the time, personally goes and serves people who are suffering with AIDS, even doing the menial things of taking trays or feeding, and even some of the other things that nurses might do. So both by his word and action, he is professing his faith and showing us how we must put forward, proclaim the teaching of the church, even though those teachings may be difficult to follow. And then by his example, he said, well, if I do it, then why don't some of the other people make the necessary sacrifices in order to show by their living? I think again, we can go back to Scripture and St. Paul, the early days of the church, And the main thing was to take the people, to give them this new teaching, and let them set an example by their lifestyle and what they do, and that way profess their faith. They live their faith. And we are told, too, that it's by the good example of what they did, even in their sufferings, the early martyrs and the early confessors in that limited sense, they professed their faith. And lots of times they'd have exile, if nothing else. They would be ridiculed and sometimes physically arrested in those days. And whether we're getting to that part here in our own country, I wouldn't go that far to say that, but the way sometimes the writers go against the church in many magazines. Somebody sent me an article the other day, a terrible article against the church, in a magazine that we won't want to mention either because it's not a particularly good one. But they go against the church, and then they blame everything on not on the individuals that do things, but they blame it, well, it's the church, and then the church is responsible for trying to make a cover-up or something, and really it's the church that's at fault. And when they say the church, they mean essentially the bishops and their teaching and the teachings of the church.
Yes, yes.
So we're more and more definitely counterculture to what is being proposed in movies and plays and things like of that nature.
And the bishop really can be an example and puts himself on the line, takes that kind of risk, and as you say, there have been some bishops recently who've been killed, I think in the past little more than 10 years. And we can start with Archbishop Romero. There was a bishop killed in Mogadishu in Somalia in 1989, and another bishop killed in Colombia in 1989. I think the Vatican says that in the past decade, 150 missionaries have been killed, and last year there were 22 killed, including 5 American nuns. So that one who stands out gives us example of how we should live, really does take a risk.
It's true. It's in a way, if you destroy the leadership, you make a great step forward destroying the organization. Even in the wartime, if you can shoot an officer, then the people lose their leadership and they flounder and they could be overcome. But there is that increased danger in a couple of South American countries. There's a group that is particularly viciously communistic, and they're shooting missionaries, whether they're Catholic or non-Catholic, but that's the way to destroy the leadership, put fear into the people, and then draw them away from strong moral teachings and the gospel values.
And ultimately, their aim does not happen because they don't achieve their aim, because what happens is by the example that these bishops and these missionaries have given, the people themselves live up.
They do, and that's again something that goes way back, that the blood of martyrs is the seed of the faith. So if people are really convinced that they're ready to die for their faith, not only to speak for it, but to die for it, then others say, well, maybe there is something. We probably have to instill some of this into our own people today. And many of our bishops are outspoken, and immediately there's the hue and cry against what they said, whether it's, the big topic, it's going to be a big topic for a long time, the topic of abortion. And some say, well, there are groups where Catholics for abortion, which is kind of a contradiction in terms. But you have to come out and say it. And in our own diocese, from time to time, I've made some proclamations myself. And I know my predecessor, who was Bishop R., who just passed away, was very firm. When it came to teaching, whether it's dogmatic or moral, he was a professor of dogmatic theology, but he would always say, this is the teaching. This is the teaching of the church. This is the teaching that was handed down from centuries and put forth in various councils and held by the church for 2,000 years almost. So he was very firm and very clear.
Bishop Barr was an example for you. He was your teacher in the seminary, and you worked with him for a number of years.
Almost 25 years. But I've known him, we go back to seminary time, I've known him for over 50 years. And he was very very loyal to the church, and he just, there was a Latin expression, centuri cum ecclesia. Right. If the church says it, and that means the magisterium, then I think along with the church at all times. And because of his background as a dogmatic professor, he could explain it very clearly. And one great thing that I always admired about him was his ability to take a document. He wasn't so much for preparing one, he was a little slow on that, but he could take a document and analyze it and critique it in the good sense. He said, well, this word is not right, or this adjective, even an adjective, that's not right. If you say it that way, you could lead into this error, but otherwise, if you say it the proper way, people will understand it, and then they can see how it can apply to their daily life as they go along in life, and follow the teachings of the church. Again, both moral and dogmatic. He was very firm all the time. In many ways, some of his judgments and what he did in the diocese, particularly in liturgical practices or other practices, if the church permits it, that means if it comes from the Holy Father or the Holy See, congregation, then it's all right in our diocese, but not beyond.
And he was Bishop of the Diocese of Trenton during the great changes after Vatican II.
It was a very difficult time for someone to come back and to go through all of those changes and then to keep a balance. I believe Pope Paul VI is a great example, and sometime as the years go by, it takes 25, sometimes even 50 years before you can really look back and say, this man was a tremendous man to take the new changes, to look at them and find out how they could be applied without weakening the teaching authority of the church.
And that's really a delicate balancing act in a sense, without going too far this way, too far that way, but still maintaining a steady course.
Well, you have to avoid both extremes. They will say, for lack of a better term, you have to avoid very liberal and you have to avoid very conservative. And like they always say, virtue's in the middle. Mm-hmm. So if you balance it out, stick to the core, whatever it is, and then apply it, then you can find that the church's teachings. And that makes it a difficult job for the bishop of the diocese. And again, our bishops are probably, as a group, we put out some very important documents, and we hold them and make sure that they are well nuanced. And therefore, a person has to study the document itself, and not to take somebody's summary that they put in a paper or make an article out of it. What does the document say? And it's,
rather than someone's interpretation, which might be distorted and aimed towards some other goal.
Yeah. I had a canon law professor. He always said, read the text itself. Don't listen. Read it. What does the text say? Then you go from there. And that's probably true in all the things that we have to do in our faith.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bishop. What you've had to say to us tonight is really enlightening. Pat and Paul will be with us in a minute.
One-on-One was brought to you by The Monitor, the weekly newspaper of the Diocese of Trenton. To subscribe to The Monitor, call 609-586-7400.
I was on my way to grad school, but I took a different turn, to Africa, with the Peace Corps. Sure, I'll go back to school at some point, but now I'm learning things you don't find in textbooks.
Peace Corps, the toughest job you'll ever love.
What's he doing in this neighborhood?
What's he doing in this neighborhood?
If I cross to the other side of the street, he'll know I'm afraid.
Don't look him in the eye. Great, I'm here.
Sometimes we fear those who are different from us. We fear the unknown. Let's take time to get to know one another. We have a lot more in common than we may think.
Pope John Paul II is expected to make Blessed Catherine Drexel of Philadelphia a saint of the Catholic Church. Blessed Catherine was an educator and a pioneer of racial justice in the early 20th century. You're invited to pray at the Blessed Catherine Drexel Shrine in Bensalem, Pennsylvania from 1 to 5 p.m. every day. The shrine is located on Route 13, Bristol Pike, off the Woodhaven Road exit of I-95. For more information, call 244-9900. We welcome your comments, suggestions, and donations and encourage you to write us at Catholic Magazine, St. Charles Seminary, 1000 East Wynwood Road, Overbrook, PA, 19096, or call us during regular business hours at 668-9842. Set materials for Catholic Magazine provided by Tague Lumber Incorporated, serving the Delaware Valley for over 75 years. And by John Wanamaker, fine stores in the Delaware Valley.
A reminder for you, the Office of AIDS Ministry of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia sponsors weekly support group meetings for people with AIDS, their families, friends, and caregivers, every Monday night from 7:30 until 9 p.m. The meetings are held in the Catholic Social Services Building in Philadelphia. Please contact the Office for AIDS Ministry at 587-3830 for further information. And please be assured that everyone is welcome and your confidentiality is respected. Again, that number is 587-3830.
We also like to remind you that a symposium on parish life, partners in parish leadership, collaboration and ministry is being offered at St. Charles Borromeo Seminary in July. Those dates are July 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. The symposium will explore the interrelationships among all those who share responsibility for the mission and ministry of the church on the parish level. Pastors, parish staffs, pastoral councils, heads of various activities and committees, as well as parishioners. Those who wish to participate in the symposium should call the Office for the Renewal of Parish Life of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia at 587-0500.
This will be our last original show of the season. Next week, viewers will see a program that was previously preempted and not shown. It's an interview with Bishop James McHugh of Camden.
As Pat just mentioned, Catholic Magazine will be off the air on Channel 17 starting July 11th, but will return in the fall on Sunday, September 5th. So please rejoin us then, as all of us sincerely appreciate your viewership and appreciate the cards and letters that you take the time to send us. Our cable viewers in New Jersey will be seeing reruns of some of our most popular programs, including our traditional Christmas in July and rebroadcast of our discussion programs. So until September, thanks so much for joining us. I'm Paul Pirello.
Have a happy summer. Don't forget us. We'll see you in the fall. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.